pwedeng mag-meeting with me as your advisor. So, kung meron kayong mga problems, pwede mo siyang i-consolidate tapos i-facilitate mo so that we can address it. Ano po?
Yes po, ma'am. Noted po.
Thank you. Alright. So, sa part 2 natin, we're going to discuss the principles. General principles and specific principles. So, let's start off. So, on general principles, hinati natin siya sa tatlo. On child growth and development. And we have to be reminded that every child is unique. So their growth and development vary from child to child. So even the pace on how children develop. So maaaring ikaw ay mas mabilis sa mathematics, pwedeng ang isang bata ay mas mabilis kapag English, kasi magkakaiba tayo ng development. So for whom, the first 8 years of life are most vital. Thus, very big challenge ay nakaatang sa mga elementary school teachers. Kasi yung first 8 years of their life, dyan talaga pinakamabilis ang development. We have to inculcate in them the love for learning. Specifically, the love for reading. Bakit mahalaga ang reading? Kasi yan talagang foundation for them to understand all the other subjects. So, kung kayo, sa sarili nyo, magmumuni-muni kayo ngayon, ako ba bilang isang tao, mahilig ba ako magbasa? Or na-develop ba sa akin yung love for reading? How often do I read? At my age, ilang libro na ang nabasa ko? Or in a year, ilang libro ang nababasa ko? So, very important yun, that we have to inculcate in them, the importance of reading. It is most vital, or the development is most vital on the first 8 years of their life. He or she has an innate desire to learn, and this is best done through meaningful and real experiences. So in science classes, lalong-lalo na kapag grades 1 to grade 3, for example, integrated siya. Grade 1, kinder to grade 2 pala, where sciences is integrated in social sciences, mathematics, and language. Kailangan pag nagbibigay tayo ng lessons, we have to make it meaningful and real life. Right? Iakma natin sa uniqueness ng bawat bata. Okay. Every aspect also of growth and development is interrelated and interdependent. This means that the child needs to be nurtured in a good and caring environment that enhances healthy and dependable relationships with other children and most significant adults. So when we say our environment, it always starts within the family. So every aspect of growth and development, contributory at malaking factor ang isang family. The family which shows love and care to their children, or their willingness to support the interest of their child, or those families who can give the right support, the right praises to their children, usually can develop a good learner. Kasi kapag lumabas sila sa mga bahay nila, magmamanifest kung anong uri ng pamilya ang kinalakhan nila. Okay? So it is very important that we have to know that what the characteristics of the children entrusted to us in school ay yun ang characteristics nila sa kanilang mga bahay. However, some researchers would say na hindi siya ganun ka-conclusive. Kasi may mga nagsasabi na hindi niya ma-express sa bahay nila. So ang nangyayari, nadadala niya yung ibang characteristic niya or ibang pagkatao niya paglabas niya ng bahay. Example, if the father is too strict, bawal maingay sa bahay, pwedeng yung bata, maingay siya sa school. Kasi nga, nadadala niya right opposite ng kung ano siya doon sa bahay. So one of the general principles, therefore, is since it is interrelated and interdependent, we have to see to it that we really understand the background, ang mga pinagmumulan ng mga estudyante natin, so that we would know how to teach them. And of course, if they are well loved in their family, we as their second parents should also show them the love that they deserve. Kung gaano sila pinapahalagahan ng kanilang pamilya, ganun din natin sila pahalagahan. So we have to listen to them. We have to listen to their stories. We have to listen to their wins. We have to listen to everything. And when we say listen, we really have to listen attentively. We really have to listen sincerely. Hindi yung, okay, you may now speak, pero dala mo yung cellphone mo at nagte-text ka, which is an indication that you really don't want to listen. So when you listen, sabi sa holistic or active listening skills, when you listen with all the parts of your body. So your facial expression, dapat nakatingin ka din sa kanya. Hindi ka fidget ng kamay mo habang ikaw ay nakikipag-usap sa kanya. So importante yun sa bata. Nakaka-apekto yun sa kanyang pagkatuto. Generally, kasi nandito pa tayo sa general principles. Number 3 is that learning and development of every child involve a series of complex and dynamic processes, which are best attended to in a more positive and responsive manner. So if we tend to be passive rather than active, if we tend not to be responsive at all to their needs, the tendency is we are stifling their urge to talk to you. Sa susunod, kahit may gusto nang sabihin sa'yo yung bata, hindi na niya sasabihin sa'yo. And eventually, it will have an effect to learning. Hindi na siya magtatanong, magpipretend siya na okay lang siya, kahit hindi siya okay. Or, hindi siya mag-share ng kanyang idea. Because the child would think, hindi din naman ako pinapakinggan ng pamilya ko. Why would others listen to me? So it is very important that we have to be responsive in any way possible. Now, as online teachers in the future, you, as future teachers, the teachers of the new normal, how are you going to let your students know that you are responsive enough to their needs? One way is to give them feedback. You give them honest feedback. When you see their work and it is not very good, do not tell them that they are very good. You just tell something that they deserve. Otherwise, kapag mediocre naman ang work niya, hindi ganong kaganda, pero sinabi mo very good, the child would think that he or she is really very good and he will not do his best anymore in the next few activities. That hampers the learning of a child. So if we have to give commendations, please make sure that the commendations are correct, that the commendations are the ones that they just deserve. It is okay to say na hindi magandang sulat niya, but you have to choose the words that you're going to use. Hindi mo sasabihin, naggalas surat mo. You're going to say, maybe, you can practice more. Are you willing to be coached? Are you willing to try this? We try this together. I will help you out. You just let the child feel na nandyan ka lang, na ready, na makinig, ready na tumulong sa kanya in any way possible. Another, the child must be encouraged to aspire beyond one's own level of achievements and to practice newly acquired competencies. In short, we give them a lot of opportunities so that they can showcase their talents, they can showcase their inclinations, they can showcase the things that they are good at. Give them also opportunities that they can practice something new. Hindi ibig sabihin na kapag kahinaan ng bata, itong competency na to, give up na. Mahina ka dyan, yan mo na yan, huwag mo nang practicing yan, wala ka ng pag-asa. So we have to encourage them to capitalize on what they are good at. But do not forget to enhance the things that they are not good at. Mahina ka na nga sa math, hindi ka pa nag-practice. Mahina ka na nga sa music, hindi ka pa din nag-practice. Hindi ba dapat ang attitude ay, kung saan tayo mahina, puspusan natin yung effort natin. Just like in child and adolescent development, the issues on nature and nurture. Hindi ka na nga nakamana ng magandang genes, ang tamad mo ka. Ouch naman. Diba? What I mean is that, kung ano man yung pagkukulang ng bawat bata, we try to help them fill in the gaps. And definitely, that would yield positive results. Not only on child and development, but also in the general academic performance of the child in your class or in other teachers' classes or in his life. Hindi lang tayo dapat nakafocus sa grades. Nakafocus tayo sa ano ang pwedeng mangyari sa akin after school. We have to prepare ourselves for the future. Just as the same case as we help the children under our care prepare their futures, their own futures. Okay. And lastly, every child is a thinking, moving, feeling, and interactive human being that is able to actively participate in the learning and development of self in the context of one's family and community, including cultural and religious beliefs. In short, he is a holistic being. In short, he is someone that can be developed over time. And the school has a great responsibility towards the development of the child holistically. Okay. So in terms of science education, we can use also these child growth and development principles in our classes. Example, kapag nagpa-activity tayo sa science, we can give them choices. Why do we give them choices? Why do we give them individual activities? Why do we give them individualized instruction? Because we think that every child is unique. Okay? Another example, why do we involve their parents, their kuyas, their ates in their learning? Nagpa-assignment ka? Interviewin ang nanay o tatay. Interviewin or magpasama sa ate at kuya at gawin itong activity na to. Why do we involve them? Because, number 2, we believe that the aspect of growth and development is interrelated and interdependent. And so on and so forth. General principle letter B talks about the learning program development. And then later on, we're going to discuss paano naman siya in specific principles in science. The learning program is child-centered. That is the reason why the science curriculum framework is really advocating for an inquiry-based learning. Because an inquiry-based learning is basically child-centered. And when we say child-centered, the learning is actually given to the learners, recognizing them as active participants of the learning process. Okay? So, though kanina, yung mga methods of instruction na binigay ko, yung 4, dalawa doon ay teacher-centered, dalawa doon ay student-centered. You can choose from other child-centered or learner-centered strategies, methods, and approaches. Kasi marami po dyan. Those are just prescribed ones. You can mix and match because we still consider the traditional methods as effective methods naman. Hindi natin sinasabi na, wala na yan, traditional, ibasura na natin yan. Because those methods that were used in the past can still be considered good up to the present. Dahil nga, magkakaiba ang bawat estudyante. There are some students who would learn best through lecture discussion rather than just pre-recorded lessons because they think that the teacher presence is very important. Meron din naman yung iba, magbasa na lang ako kaysa mag-attend or manood ng pre-recorded lessons. Mas gusto ko pang nagbabasa ng nobela kaysa nanonood sa Netflix. Magkakaiba po kasi tayo. So those are just examples and analogies of what I am telling you. That the traditional methods of instruction can still be used even in the contemporary times. Hindi natin sila pwedeng ibasura. Okay. Number 2, the learning program is appropriate for developing the domains and must sustain interest in active learning of all young children, including those with special abilities, marginalized, and or those at risk. So when we say appropriate for developing the domains, we are talking here about the CAP, the cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor domains. We can also include cultural domains if you want to, spiritual domains if you would want to. Example ng cultural domains. I would include some examples that are true to the culture of the community where I teach, therefore developing their cultural domain. Can I do that in science classes? Of course you can. Example, ang lesson mo is about the surroundings. You can include the community people in your discussion. So kung ang barangay ninyo, ang mismong pinagkakakita nila ay pangingisda, then you can give examples aligned with pangingisda to develop their cultural domain and awareness of the community that they live in. Kung ang barangay nyo naman, ang main work nila ay pagsasaka, then you can give examples on pagsasaka so that they will develop their cultural domain their awareness that their culture is a good one. Okay? Number 3, the learning program is implemented by way of diverse learning activities. This means that in as much as possible, we can give diverse learning activities. Pwedeng nagbigay ka ngayon ng essay writing. Sa susunod, pwedeng magbigay ka ng multiple choice. Sa susunod, magbigay ka ng poster making or slogan making. Sa susunod, magbigay ka ng poem recitation or song composition para ma-distribute ang chances para sa mga estudyante. Because our students are all different. I told you at the first principle that every child is unique. Kung puro essay, partida, yung magaling magsulat. Wala nang chance yung magaling mag-video edit. Partida, yung magaling mag-video edit kung puro ka video edit. Wala nang chance kumanta yung mga magaling kumanta. Ma'am, science classes po tayo. Possible ba ang pagpapakanta? Of course, we can try those activities. We can diversify learning activities, and we can also enhance it with multimedia technologies, such as the following. In your slide, you can see there, interactive radio, audio or video clips, and computer-enhanced activities. Yes, according to Aldrin, he said something about multiple intelligences. And that is correct. We are all unique, we are all different because we have different intelligences. So we have to tap all of those intelligences in as much as possible. We design diverse learning activities. Okay. And number 4, the use of learning materials and other resources that are locally developed and or locally available is encouraged. Why? Because we wanted to involve everyone. Eh kung ang mga materials mo ay snow ski, sino ba naman ang batang merong snow ski dito sa Pilipinas? Hindi naman natin yung locally ginagamit. Kung ang materials mo ay bangka, eh ang isang bata nakatira sa isang kapatagan, hindi siya ganun ka-meaningful para sa kanya kasi hindi niya na-experience. So in as much as possible, we have to use local materials. But I am not telling you that you cannot introduce the bangka just because the child is living in a kapatagan. Kasi, kung ililimit naman natin sa kung ano lang yung nakikita nila sa paligid, we are robbing them the opportunity to learn about other cultures. In short, we have to balance. Kapag magpapa-activity, locally available, readily available local materials can be used. Pero hindi ibig sabihin nun na hanggang doon na lang tayo. So in short, we have to make our learning or our pedagogies learner-centered. We have to develop the domains of learning. We have to give diverse learning activities. And the 4th one, we have to use materials that are localized, indigenized, contextualized. Okay. Now, how are we going to give examples with regards to science teaching? Pwede naman po. Sa science teaching, child-centered, inquiry-based po tayo. Practical work yung papagawa natin. Or project work. Okay? Paano po yung number 4, kunwari? Magpapa-experiment ka. The resources that you are supposed to use or the variables, for example, the alternatives that you're going to write are the ones that can be seen in their own communities. So those are just examples. So kung sa letter A kanina, nagbanggit din ako ng dalawa, pwede pa rin natin gamitin itong learning program development principles sa science education. And then, on learning assessment naman, one of the principles is that assessment is done to monitor learning so that we can know where the child is at and inform parents of the child's progress. Very important na mag-passes because this is the only way that we will be ensured that the students are on the right track. What if, for example, we have known through the assessment na hindi pala niya naintindihan? Good news. At least nag-passes ka, nalaman mo hindi na na-gets, you can conduct a specific intervention para matulungan yung bata. Why is it important for us then to inform the parents of the child's progress? I've been telling you this in teaching profession na ang parents ang ating partners sa education ng ating children. or ng kanilang children rather. Therefore, it is our responsibility to let them know how they are in our classes because it is their right to know, them being the parents of the children. Okay? So, assessment is done to monitor learning at hindi natin ginagawang assessment para parusahan. Hindi yung, maingay yung klase nyo, dahil dyan magpapaquiz ako. Hindi po yon ang main aim ng assessment. Also, thank you RJ, assessment can be done for remediation. Tama yun. Nalaman mo kasi dito siya mahina, mag-intervention ka yun. Mag-create ka ng remediation program para tulungan yung mga batang mangilan-ngilan na matutunan yung konsepto na hindi nila natutunan during the in-class session. Okay. Assessment also is crucial to identifying the child's total development needs and does not determine academic achievement. Though it can determine academic achievement, assessment is usually done so that you can really see what else needs to be done. At least kapag mas maaga kang nagpa-assess, makikita mo kaagad kung anong kulang or kung anong kailangan gawin. Hindi yung at the end of the semester, doon mo lang malalaman, lagi palang absent si RJ. Hindi ko lang nalaman. Lagi palang walang work si Jasmine. Kasi minsanan ka na lang nag-check ng output. Midterm, minsanan mo nang binalik, tapos na-realize mo, out of 6, dadalawa lang pala yung nasubmit ni Jasmine. Hindi mo lang man lang siya na-inform. Jasmine, anong problema mo? Bakit hindi mo nakuha or nagawa ang activity 3, 4, 5, 6? Kasi nga, late ka nang nagpa-assess. Okay? It's minsanan. So we have to be very sensitive to the needs of our students. Remember that this assessment is very important. Sabi nga ni si Brenda yata or si Salandana nang nagsabi, assessment is a sine qua non to teaching. Ibig sabihin ng sine qua non, it is very important. Hindi pwedeng makumpleto ang teaching without assessment. So our attitude again, kapag nagpa-quiz si teacher, I thank you, nagpa-quiz na si teacher. Kasi that is the only way na malaman natin kung kumusta yung mga estudyante natin. In addition, sabi din ni Sheena, para din ma-improve natin ang ating teaching and learning. Sa teacher, sa part ko, malalaman ko ano yung kulang ko. Or at least tinanong ko man lang kayo. Okay? Sana wala kayong ganong experience na magugulat na lang kayo ng midterms and finals na bagsak pala kayo. Kasi naman po, walang bumabalik na paper sa amin. Hindi namin alam kung tamang ginagawa namin umali. Kasi naman ma'am, minsanan lang siyang nagpa-quiz din. So, hindi kami nakabawi. So, sa isang quiz niya po, 20 items, tapos wala nang ibang quiz. So, hindi na po ako nakabawi. Okay? So, importante na nag-a-assess tayo ng ating learning. Or at least, we ask our students ano yung mga difficulties nila. Number 3, assessment is best conducted on a regular basis so that a timely response or intervention can be made to improve learning, which is true. In science education, in mathematics education, and language education, generally, assessment is best. The term is best, conducted on a regular basis. Sa atin ngayon, so far, sa record ko, isa pa lang ang top quiz ko. 10 items, multiple choice. So, hindi siya ganun ka-regular, pero yung activities na sinasubmit mo, that would be good as assessing whether you understood the material or not. Or, kapag online class, I can ask you of your opinions, which could give me a basis for a timely response so that we can both improve the teaching and learning process. Okay? Number 4, general principles that the results of the learning assessment of a child shall be kept strictly confidential. The rating should be more qualitative or descriptive and less numerical. Meaning to say, we have to make things or we have to make meaning of the data that we have, tulad ng sinabi ko kanina. Why do we need to keep the data of a child, assessment of the child, confidential? Confidential siya para sa iba. Pero yung result ng test niya, kailangan lang na alam niya. So, kung may mga teachers pa, for example, na natitira, na hindi nagbabalik ng paper, hindi nag-grade, hindi nagmamark ng paper, nakakatakot yon. dapat kayo, when you will become future teachers, you have to make sure to inform your children of their performance. Magbalik kayo ng papel. Mag-check kayo ng paper. Kasi that is the only way that you can help one another. And so that you can really assess learning. Okay? So the results of the learning, sabi nga natin to, should be kept confidential, but not to the child himself. Pero kung kukunin halimbawa ni Aldrin, ma'am, patingin nga ako ng paper ni Hazel. Hindi ko pwedeng ibigay kay Aldrin yung paper ni Hazel. Kasi, confidential po yun. Okay? Gone were the days din, na kapag magre-record si Madam, tatawagin yung pangalan niyo. Okay, Aguinaldo, Ma'am 8 over 20. Hazel, Ma'am 9. Elijah, Ma'am 2. Earl Denver, Ma'am 1. It's not supposed to be. Kasi we have to keep it strictly confidential. Bakit? Nagkakaroon po kasi ng stigma. Para sa bata. Mahiya siyang sasabihin kasi akala niya, ang test scores niya would identify or determine who he or she is. Lalo na ang daming judgmental sa community. Na kapag 2 over 10 ang nakuha niya, mahina na siya kagad. Hindi ba pwedeng nagkataon lang na hindi niya alam yung sagot dun sa tanong or hindi niya natapos yung exam? Okay? So it is very important for us to make meaning of our assessments. And last general principle for learning assessment is that the family and community must be informed of the general outcomes of learning so as to encourage further cooperation and partnerships, especially in basic education. In basic education, it's that elementary hanggang high school. Paano naman po kami college, ma'am? Bawa ako, do I need to inform your parents or should I inform you na lang? Anyway, you are adult learners naman na. Pwede naman yun, di ba? Am I returning your work? Nakikita nyo ba yung mga work na nire-return ko sa inyo? Okay, that is just a proof that I am making sense of, or I am interpreting the results of your outputs. Okay. So, tulad ng sabi natin, for letter C, on learning assessment, it is very important because it gives us an opportunity to intervene or to do remediation. It also makes us reflect on our teaching and learning process to improve on whatever we have also. And we have to inform the parents of the children because it is their right to know. Okay. Tsaka ito pala number 4, we have to keep it strictly confidential. But it could be given to the child himself or herself, not to others. Huwag niyo ibibigay sa kapitbahay yung result ng ano. Huwag niyo ibibigay yung result ng test sa kapitbahay niyo. So, dapat tamang tao lang. Okay? So, those are the general principles that are divided into 3. Now, to add on that, we have the 7 principles of teaching that work wonders. This 7 will be our last in our slide. And I would like you to, at the end of the session, I would like you to reflect paano iaangkla ang science education sa mga principles na to. Kasi I believe, in general principles, okay pa rin to sa physical sciences. First one, principle is to encourage contact between students and faculty. Now, it might seem obvious, but building relationships and rapport with students is very important. It's one of the main factors in ensuring students succeed. There are many ways to open up the communication channels and build relationships between students and yourself, including learning your students' names, personalizing feedback on students' work. Like, kapag mag-feedback ako, kailangan nakapangalan talaga sa iyo. Kunwari, ilalagay mo, Jolie Vian, I appreciate your effort in like this and like that. But maybe next time, what you can do is like this and like that. So you can personalize feedback on students' work by really starting it with their names or addressing it to their first names. Okay? You can also do this by sharing personal experiences and talking to your students on a personal level. And I believe, and there has been a research that has been done when we were still in college, that students would be more responsive if they are called by their first names rather than by their last names. So instead of asking you to recite Bermudez, Talpito, Guemo, Jose, Turda, etc., I would rather call you by your first names. Because this is the only way that I am breaking the gap between the student and the teacher. This is one way for me to inform you, I being your teacher, that I can be easily talked to. Pwedeng lapitan, pwedeng kausapin. So it is very important for us to build relationships and rapport with our students. Kasi ang tendency po, kapag medyo malayo ang loob mo sa mga bata, nakifeel nila yun. Tendency, hindi na sila nakakapag-participate or nagbe-behave sila out of fear, not out of discipline. So kailangan ipa-feel natin sa kanila that our relationships with them matter. Okay. Number 2 is to develop reciprocity and cooperation among students. When do we say reciprocity? It is like a give and take. So when you encourage team collaboration and learning is enhanced. So group work improves thinking, collaboration skills, as well as social skills. Ways to introduce this into your classroom are using cooperative learning groups, encouraging students with different socioeconomic backgrounds to participate in classes, and also to introduce the idea of peer tutoring every now and again. So when we say peer tutoring, yung kaklase mo, imbis na magtatanong ko kay teacher, kay classmate ka na lang magtatanong. Tapos kayo na lang yung mag-uusap. So when we say reciprocity, again, that is give and take. You can ask, they can answer, or they can ask you, you can answer. That is a great form of cooperation. So I hope also that in your class, you are trying to help each other, even if you are not asking anything in return. That's what sincere help is all about. Na kahit walang kapalit, you're still willing to coach your classmates, you're still willing to cheer on them, you're still willing to help them, to give them ideas, or at least man lang, to let them know that you are just there. Kumustahin nyo naman yung mga kaklase nyo. Pag feeling nyo nahihirapan siya, ano sa tingin mo ang maitutulong mo? Kung noon, a simple tap on the back could help, ngayon, a simple kumusta ka na or good night may help in the new normal. Okay? Number 3, we can encourage active learning. So dito sa active learning, diniscuss ko to sa Science in Teaching ECE, Teaching Science in ECE rather, sa isang klase ko. Meron kaming mga pinag-aralang 19 ways on how to encourage active learning among our students. Maybe I can also share to you the material later on. So it's quite widely believed that students can only learn so much when they sit in a class and listen to a teacher. Students need to make learning a part of their life. Simple ways to introduce active learning in your classroom could be asking students to present their work to the class. Because, why is it active learning? Because they do it themselves. Or, you can ask what-if questions. Example, what if gravity took a day off? What if the sun would burst right now? What if we don't have cell phones? What if there is no potable water anymore? So those are some what-if questions that can encourage active learning. Why active learning? Because they will be prompted with those questions and they are prompted or encouraged to make their stance. They would think about something different also. And giving students problem-solving tasks to complete is also a way of encouraging active learning. Or tulad nung sabi natin kanina, we have the TEB, SEB, SEE, or lecture method. SEB means the student can do their own problems and exchange problems with each student. Tapos, yung mga klase niya ang magsosolve nung ginawa niyang problem. So that is one way on how we can encourage active learning in our physical science classes. Number 4, eto nung inaaral ko to, medyo guilty ako dun sa last part. Sabi niya, the best time to summarize lessons and give feedback on work is when a subject or lesson is still fresh in your students' minds. So feedback enhances learning as it helps your students identify what they successfully learned and what they need to look at again. Kasi nga, hindi nga kayo manghuhula. Asan ang tama ko? Asan ang mali ko? Kaya bilang kayo ay magiging teachers in the future, magbigay kayo ng feedback. Okay? Great ways to help students reflect and learn on lessons is to follow up lessons with a summary of what should have been learned. Q&A style sessions and returning grades or marking within 1 week could also help. Kaya sabi ko kanina, guilty ako dito. Lalo na kapag ang dami nyo na 38 o kahit na nagpag-group work ako, tigda dalawa sa bawat work. So 38 divided by 2, 19 pa rin yung babasahin ko. 19 pa rin yung bibigyan ko ng feedback. Tendency is, umabot ako yata ng 2 weeks bago ko na ibalik sa lahat yung aking feedbacks or yung inyong mga works. Patawad na. Pero tulad yung sabi ko dito, I am guilty at times. Pero sinasabi at nire-remind sa akin ng principle number 4 na kailangan, in as much as possible, I should give back your papers within 1 week. Do you have any experience not receiving any of your papers, but receiving your grades at the end of the semester?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And that makes you think, where am I good at and where am I not good at? What are the things that I need to improve? Or, may I ask you, have you ever experienced na-return nga yung paper, but no feedbacks? Hindi mo alam kung asan ang tama mo. Hindi mo alam kung nasa ang mali mo. Pero may grade. Have you ever experienced that? Naku, yes din. OMG. Ako ba yan? Oo na nga. Guilty na ako dun sa within 1 week. Ayan. So, nakakalungkot that still you are experiencing it. But what I'm telling you is that, since may benchmark statements tayo, kapag kayo na yung teacher, pang-pangaasiyo, magbigay kayo ng feedback. Because that will lead your students in knowing what they are good at and what they need to improve. Understood, BEd2.
Yes, ma'am.
Mapapromise nyo ba sa akin? Ayan, yes ma'am, nag-promise na si Ida. Si Ida lang ang nag-promise. Okay. Thank you so much for promising. Ayan, promise din si Michelle. And promises are meant to be promises are meant to be
Broken.
fulfilled. Che. Promises are meant to be fulfilled and not broken. Ayan. O yan, sa mga nagsabi ng broken, siguro na-experience na nila na ma-break ang mga promises. But, as teachers, hindi natin mantra yon. Our promises should be fulfilled and not to be broken. Okay, so since you made your promise to yourself, sana wag niyong dadayain yung sarili niyo kapag kayo na ang teacher. In short, give prompt feedback, period. Okay? Number 5, emphasize time on task. When we say time on task, nai-engage kasi natin ang mga bata kapag meron tayong specific deadlines. Though deadlines can be very stressing, I believe. Nakita nyo pa lang sa G-Classroom deadline, sa Monday na ang deadline. Na-stress na kayo kagad. Thinking about the deadline, but not thinking about the quality of your work. Your primary concern should be the quality of your work and not the deadline. But, if we can do both, quality of the work plus the deadline, that would be better. As we all know, we're always rushed for time. Lessons range from 40 to 55 minutes, which means you need to introduce a subject, explore it, set some work around it, and summarize it in a short amount of time. Therefore, with this 40 to 55 minutes, learning should be efficient. Some simple ways to ensure tasks are completed efficiently are having realistic expectations. Workable naman. Huwag kang magbibigay ng project na trip to Mars. Diba? Because it is not realistic. Also, teaching time management skills. You have to teach your students how they can manage their time. Because whether we like it or not, all of us have 24 hours. Now, if you cannot find time, please make time. I-prioritize nyo yung work nyo. Kung ang deadline nyo kay Ma'am is Lunes, Martes pa yung isa, unahin nyo muna yung mga mauna. That's basic. Also, you can help students set their own goals and timelines for learning and submitting work. Or better still, you can offer your time to your students to help them manage their time. So at your age, BEd 2, do you still find that I find difficulty in managing your time? Are you still stressed whenever a work is given to you in the G classroom? Na kapag may notification kayo, ngarag na naman kayo. Yes. Sumasagot si Sir William, yes daw. Hindi ka kasali, sir. Sila lang. So I repeat, BEd 2. Do you still struggle in managing your time? Ay, nako, sometimes. Buti na lang may sometimes. Ayan, si Juwen Kenneth kasing tinitingnan niya kagad daw deadline. Ayan. Kapag hindi mo na na-meet ang deadline, it's okay. Because you may not meet the deadline, okay lang. You will not be dead anyway. Na-miss mo lang yung deadline. Okay. So we have to accept it. Stressor siya? Sige, carry lang. Sabi ko nga kanina, di ba? Tanggap ng requirement. Pasasaan, ba't matatapos lang? Mantra ng BEd 2. But as I tell you, huwag niyong sasabihin, buti pa siyang daming time. Believe me, tigti 24 hours a day lang tayo. Huwag kayong OA. Okay? Huwag niyong sasabing marami siyang time. Okay? So after deadline, ikain lang din yan. Tama. Kaya itulog lang. Find a time for yourself always. As I always remind you. But do not forget, you have to remind your students that time on task is very important. Focus. Fighting, sabi ni RJ. Okay? Number 6, you also have to communicate high expectations. Hindi pwedeng may ma-submit lang. So students with little motivation, children unwilling to try, and children that exceed all need to be set high expectations. Ways to set high standards are encouraging students to work hard in class, giving positive reinforcement throughout your lessons, and working one-on-one with students that might be struggling to learn something are some of the things that we can do. Basta dapat willing tayo as teachers to give them our extras. Okay? Hindi pwedeng ikaw na lang laging nag-adjust bilang teacher. Babaan ko kasi hindi nila maaabot. Otherwise, they're not going to learn how to do their work in an excellent manner. Lagi na lang silang aasa, di bale, babababaan na ni ma'am yung standard. Di bale, okay lang, kausapin na lang natin si madam. Hindi pwede yun. Reciprocity ang sabi natin kanina. I will do my best to help you, but you have to do your best also to help yourself. Tip, as future teacher, you have to let your students that you expect high from them. Ayaw ko ng work lang na basta may maipasa lamang. In bold, italics, underline, read. Encouraging students to focus on doing their best instead of worrying about grades is a really important way to boost confidence and encourage high standards are set to. In other universities where we are given a chance to choose our teachers, minsan, yung kami college, enroll ko si Ma'am A kasi high grader. Ayoko si Ma'am B kasi napaka-stricto. Pero in the end, marirealize mo, mataas nga siyang magbigay ng grade. O, take note dito ay naka-underline, bold, italics. Mataas nga siyang nagbigay ng grade. But in the end of the semester, you're going to reflect back. May natutunan ba ako? And when you said no, walang kwenta ang grades mo. Because, let me remind you, your grades do not define who you are. After all, we are supposed to be after learning. At may naiyak. Aldrin, bakit bakit ikaw ay nag-i-emoji? Kasi bigla ka bang, may experience ka ba ng gano'n? Ang taas nga ng grade ko, pero in the end, wala naman pala ako natutunan. Or, okay lang na madaming requirements si Ma'am Anne. Anyway, natuto ako sa experience ko. Dapat ganun na lang tayo. Okay, limbawa, mga libreng webinar, walang certificate. Okay lang kahit walang certificate. Ang importante, may natutunan kang bago. And that's the spirit. Who is it after, or who is it for after all? Hindi ba it is para sa inyo din naman? Para sa mga bata din naman. So if you're going to communicate high expectations and expect them to have high quality work, you have to really communicate it to them. Sabi nga ni Sheena May, grades are just numbers, learning matters. In reality, however, kapag ikaw ay magtatrabaho, isa sa mga tinitingnan nila ay grades. Pero don't worry too much. Kasi I tell you, may mga iba din naman na nagpo-prosper sa work. Even if they are just like ordinary students when they were students. Right? So do not be harsh to yourself tas isipin mong wala kang kwenta agad-agad. Hindi ba pwedeng mababa ka lang talaga doon, hindi ka naka-review, masama ang pakiramdam mo. And tell yourself, I can do better. Tell yourself, I will learn from this experience. And that's it. Hindi napapastress. Masyado na tayong maraming stressors. Deadline pa lang nakita mo, stressed ka na. No. Everything will, sabi nga nila, matatapos din. This too shall pass. And number 7, we have to respect diverse talents and ways of learning. Sabi kanina ni Miguel yata ang nagsabi, multiple intelligences, tama. Or, it's commonly understood that everyone has different learning styles also. Though, binabasura na ngayon ang learning styles. Pero we always acknowledge this as something that is true in our context. That no two people learn something the same way. That your classmate would learn better if it's like listening. But there are some of you who learns better when they are asking questions. Or there are some of you who learns better when they do it practically. We are all unique. We are all different. So the best practice, therefore, to ensure every student is covered in your lessons is to offer a range of activities that cover and complement learning styles. Encouraging students to speak up would also help when they don't understand a lesson or when they need clarifications. This is a good way to ensure no students are being left behind. So in short, these 7 principles can all be used in science classes. So ang aking reflection question for you at the end of this session, wala naman tayong sasagutin. How about specific principles for teaching physical sciences? Or can we use those principles in our physical sciences classes also? Yes or no? Do you think meron tayong mapupulot mula sa mga inaral nating principles tapos gagamitin natin sa ating physical science classes? Magmuni nga tayo. Yes or no? Or may mga pwede pa ba tayong idagdag? Yes, meron pa. Or pwede nating gamitin. Meron pa tayong pwedeng idagdag. Pwede naman. At kung ano man yung may dadagdag nyo, pwede nyo ilagay yan sa inyong mga rules sa inyong mga klase later on. Okay? So I think this ends our session for this afternoon on Module 2, Topic 1. Kasi yung Topic 2 natin ay tapos na natin kasi nauna nga yung ating nauna yung ating mga models. So, do you have specific questions before we end the session? Clarifications? Suggestions? So, dalawa lang nagsabi sa akin na yes, they can use the principles in their teaching physical science classes. I'm so glad that you can do that. Nasa inyo na later on how you're going to maximize the use of these principles in teaching biology, chemistry, physics, and earth and space in the elementary level. If there are no questions, I think that's it. How about our documentation? Juwen?
Ma'am, ako po yung in charge na teacher.
Okay. Wait lang ah. Si Princess ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sige. On cam, thank you.
On top.
Si Princess, si Wella, sino pa? Buo na? Yan na si Nikki rin, naka-project na. Sandali lang, Nikki rin. Ayan. Ay, nagbilang ha. Thank you.
Ayan. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, next batch po kasi hindi lahat kita.
Okay po, next batch daw. Okay na ba? Next batch?
Okay. Yan. 1, 2, 3, smile. Yan. Okay, thank you po.
Nakasmile talaga ako. Tapos na-realize ko nakamask ko. Nakakaloka. Siya, sige, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you, ma'am.